Hello, I'll be talking today about the first four densities of the universe. This is talking in macro terms, in terms of the universe creation and not our own physicality and our own bodies. This is more in terms of the big scale, large galactic scale. And what I mean by densities is not densities of material matter or mass. I'm not referring to the more increased a density becomes, in my terminology, is referring to the density of light. So the density per square inch, per cubic square inch of light that inhabits a particular particle or subatomic particle is what a higher density is when I'm referring to 3, 4, 5, 6, and up. So the lower the density numerical order, the less light density there is, and the more mass density there is. So the higher you go up, the less mass density there is, the less material density. Anyway, so to begin with, the one infinite creator is that which we can call the first density, and it is the true non-duality. It is true nothingness, beingness, foreverness. It's what we cannot describe. It's the great mystery, the perfect unity mystery, where there is no beginning and thus there is no end. So it's just foreverness. We cannot ever conceptually fathom it, because that is what our evolutionary impulse is, and our biological imperative as a human species is to go forth into what this mystery is, and that is ever changing for us depending on our perspective. As we grow through the densities and we evolve into essentially a higher, more refined light and less dense material in forms of matter, that means the more that we become more in tune with this evolutionary impulse. This evolutionary impulse is always beckoning us to go into the mystery, to know it is the unconscious, and we are always heading in the direction of mystery. So there's no reference points here. It's just complete nothingness. It's not even there's no experience of nothing. There's no experiencer to experience nothingness. So it's true symbolless and formless. And that's kind of, to be without something is kind of implies that there is a form. If you refer to something as it being without, it means that it implies that there is something. But here in the one infinite first density base consciousness, where this universe began, there was no experiencer, or there was no symbol to not be, if that makes sense. And I recommend that you meditate on the concept of infinity, because the imagination that of a billion galaxies, if you imagined a billion galaxies, you would try and imagine as many as you can in your mind, but imagining 1 billion galaxies in the concept of infinity is no closer to understanding the great mystery, the great infinity, than imagining our single galaxy, the Milky Way. So there's no reference. Hopefully that puts into perspective about there's no really way for you to grasp. There's nothing to grasp in the first one infinite density. And that is kind of where everything started. This is before the Big Bang. If the Big Bang was a density, it would be the second density. So going forward, bringing awareness to the awareness of being I, awareness of a being, awareness of being I. It is a central place where that is not yet a place. It's an experience that is without time, and it's a timeless realm. And the timeless realm that I am referring to is inherent of time. It is the beginning of time. The timeless realm is the beginning of time, and it is what it begins to it's a cloud. It starts to take definition, but it's just a nebulous cloud of intelligence and its potential. It's infinite potential, and this potential has the ability to birth whatever intelligence comes from it. And before I get moving on, this empty beingness is recognizing that it is a individual in some way, but it doesn't have any idea about the individual. So the beingness that the first density experience, or the second density of free will, is this concept of having a decision to move, and it's having the ability to move and grow. It has an ability to move and grow, and the awareness of being I. This empty being is essentially, if we were to refer this, it would be the great mind. It's nebulous and expansive, and there's really no boundaries to what you can imagine. There's no form of what you're imagining. There's almost no point of reference for you to will something, because you are not aware that you are separate from anything. You are not clearly defined from your will, from the great mind. You are still a part of this cosmic womb, of this cosmic egg, and you are not yet a delineation. You are not yet distinguished part of that. It is pure chaos. It is emptiness and vast spaciousness, and it continues to try to make form in the concept of clouds, and it tries to create clouds, and these clouds dissipate and dissolve constantly. It's a constant dissolving of form that has no order or no intelligence, because it is pure potential. It is waiting for it to be. This cosmic egg is waiting for potential is waiting for intelligence to is waiting for intelligence, this intelligent infinity is waiting for this infinite potential is waiting for infinite intelligence to inseminate this chaos and this womb. And this infinite potential is what can be referred to as the mother. It is the chicken or the egg, and it's it's that constant there's a sense of duality, there's a sense of separation, but it doesn't know how. It's very unconscious. It knows that it is, but it doesn't know that it is not. And it is not it is also, cyclic. It is an infinite enabler, and it does not create by itself. It enables creation through its pure spaciousness and its pure container that it holds for intelligence to organize. And going forward, we step into the third density, and that's where order starts to become of the chaos. It is the presence of what beingness is, because we experience an awareness that allows us to be present. There is an awareness of the earth, for instance, in terms of human reference point. There's the awareness of the earth that allows for human to be here, to be present. And this presence is an invisible amness. It's still an illusory. It is egoic in a way, and it is way that it imagines its identity, and it does not. It starts to form things from its own identity and its own presence. And this eternal now is always creating. It always is wanting to make order out of chaos, and it's always wanting to make form through whatever means that the local prime mover is wanting to make. So what I mean by prime mover is this entity of its own that is independent of all other laws or habits, and it creates its own laws underneath and below the overarching habits. So if we were to have a large gravitational field and there's smaller gravitational fields within it, then we would see that the larger field holds a particular frequency and disposition and law that the smaller electromagnetic field would need to reference in order for it to make a new law of its own for an even smaller electromagnetic field. And it goes on and on and on. And this primal mover, for instance, is our galaxy. Our galaxy is a central prime mover for all intelligence and all physical presence. All presence in our galaxy is three-dimensional, all matter, and the galaxy is independent from another galaxy, for instance, and it is still operating underneath the habits of the universe. And within the universe, within this bubble, for instance, if we were to picture the universe as a sphere, then we could picture the galaxy as being a electromagnetic field within the universe, and it has its own regulations. And what I mean by habits rather than laws is that there is no inherent laws. There are habits, and the habits that we experience as laws are only predisposed, and they're only perpetuated through constant identification of those laws as being finite or being infinite. If we realize that the habits that we live under as a human species and as physical bodies, we can understand that we actually can alter the habit that we are operating under. And this habit is fundamentally what has been considered to be ego consciousness, or a particular structure or thought belief that we are limited to a body. So the love dimension is this central presence where it can produce work and action within this central intelligence. So this central intelligence is now able to allow us to make our own intelligence if we are operating under it. So this galactic presence that is the central point of a particular reference point or nodal axis. It's this nexus point for all subsets of intelligence to operate from. It is the galactic center and the galaxy is its own nodal axis where all sub templates are able to create from and orient for themselves. So let's say, for instance, a subset of the galactic intelligence or the galactic creator, which is itself is a god because it has its own properties of generating and its own properties of intelligence. Within that god or within that galactic intelligence, there is a solar intelligence, and that solar intelligence is our star. It is our sun, and that is a nodal axis for our solar system and the planets within it to operate and regulate themselves independently of the sun, but also working within a potential and a threshold within that space that the sun is holding. So the sun is emanating an electromagnetic field. It's emanating a certain resonance, and depending on that resonance, the other planets will fall under this particular state of resonance. And allowing for the sun to create what it is through its own wisdom, through its own experience, it can alternate within itself, within its own threshold that it can only work with and generate from, because the sun only has so much energy, and that energy capacity is the indication of the vibratory resonance and its own extension of its electromagnetic field. So, and it produces gravity, right? So this gravity is also an indication of its power and its laws. So I would imagine that the less gravity, the less spiritual, or the less material density there is, and the higher light density there is, the less gravity. So this third dimension is what we refer to as the body, the particle. If the second dimension of free will would be constituted with a quantum law, it would be most representative of the waveform, or the wave. And the third density is more dense, characteristic of a particle. And the particle is a organization and a crystallization of the wave, because the wave is, in essence, not attached to anything. It is still vibrating at and oscillating at a certain pattern. But the more that pattern, rhythm, definition becomes stronger, the more that the particle can form and organize itself so that it can eventually create biological life. And this third density is the father. It is, if the second density of free will was the mother, which came before, it is the womb, the cosmic egg, the cosmic womb, and the father, which comes after, is what we can determine as the infinite intelligence. It is the intelligence that impregnates or inseminates the infinite potential with greater order, greater organization, greater ability to take shape and make into a expression of the infinite, a singular expression of the infinite. And just because we experience an expression of the infinite, it doesn't mean that it is the infinite. So the galaxy is one expression of the infinite through a finite mean. The galaxy is a finite expression of the infinite through a finite mean, and that is not representative, or it is not in totality what the infinite is. It is only a symbol of what the infinite is. The infinite cannot be summed up or put into a form, or it is continuous and it is mysterious. You can never know it. It is our destiny to always become more of infinite. So in the third density, there's a great deal of self-awareness that a entity incurs. So for instance, our solar entity, which is the sun, it has an intelligence of its own, and it is incurring more self-awareness, and through having the capability of harboring life in its many expressions and many forms on Earth and on other planets, it allows for the sun to collect the energy that is sent into that particular planet, and that planet effectively is a subset and a somewhat of a independent generator because it has its own set of laws and regulations and habits that operates within the sun's capacity. So if the sun's capacity was this big, then the Earth's capacity would be this big, and so on. And those potentials can always increase and decrease. There is no, actually, as we evolve and this solar system becomes more dense with light photonic particles and photonic structure, the more square cubic inch of the planets become light and less dense, the more that we are able to turn into light beings, essentially. So the farther out you go in the solar system, the more, the less dense they are. And they still don't know what exactly is on Jupiter and Mars in the mainstream media, but there's a lot less density. They say that they don't have a core within the planets of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, that they're all gaseous. And that is just an example of less density. So going further, the third density is this infinite intelligence that impregnates the infinite potential of second density, and this infinite intelligence creates work and action, and it organizes wave into a succinct direction, and it starts to form light. And all of these densities are within each other, but have a lesser influence on each other the less developed it is. So the more a density develops, grows, expands, strengthens, the more that another density can influence it and communicate and cooperate with it. So if what we refer to as the infinite creator or God, usually in a lot of religions, is referring to this love aspect, this creator that generates life. It is the sun, it is our galaxy, and before the sun and galaxy there was infinite potential, which was the mother. And we don't really, with our reductionistic logic, we don't necessarily take into the consideration this overexpanded awareness that birthed our own intelligence into existence and into experience, so that we could experience infinity in its varied and multiplicitous ways, in order for essentially the infinite to learn about itself and make a decision for itself. That's what we're all here to do, is make a decision. And I won't get into the decision right in this video, but I'll just continue to go on. So the light that we experience in fourth density is a higher degree and channeling of infinite intelligence. It is the individuated expression of intelligence. It is infinite intelligence and potential expressing itself together, and this is the child. This is the offspring of the mother and father. And these three densities, usually we chunk these densities into three. So 1, 2, and 3 4, 5, and 6, and within these each density, we see this common theme of mother, father, child, and this theme of 3 is also representative of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost within the Christian religion or Catholic religion, and that is kind of what it's referring to, and that's what I'm referring to. So we're talking on the same terms here, just different languaging, and the fourth density, which is of light, it is more contained. It's more intelligent in the way that it uses it's more efficient, and it's more individuated and linear, rather than being cyclical and chaotic, and also not taking an individuated expression of a selfhood. The more light you become, the more empowered and more powerful energetic capacity you have. And in order to contain that power, you need to become a experiencer. You need to become a higher awareness and make choices on which frequency and light you want to embody, you want to enliven, and you want to demonstrate, you want to identify as. So this light frequency is a complete choice, and this is where we're headed now, is this fourth density. And I have another video talking about this in terms of how it affects us on Earth, and I'll be talking about it much more. But the light density within the cosmic or galactic or solar system scale is much more about self-generating electromagnetic fields. So me as a God consciousness, which we all are, we all are prime movers. We're all sub prime movers, and we all have our own templates that we operate from, and each template is based on the genetic code, the state of vibration that you are operating on, and this template will impact the sub templates or the sub divisions or the sub prime movers that you generate as a self-generating prime